Ladies and gentlemen, hello and welcome to Unit Lost. I am Josh, one amongst many Pemberton, and today we're going to be doing something a little bit differently on the show. So normally I look at an entire matchup, and of course we're looking at Boston versus London, or here on Ambani, but specifically today I want to drill down and I want us to really focus on one player in particular, and that is going to be Hagapen. When we can, because you know this is Overwatch League's footage, so the camera is going to be all over the place and it's going to be watching different things, but where possible we're going to try and figure out what Hagapen is doing and why. Why are we doing this? Hagapen had a really good game here in some regards, had a really bad game in others, and one of the common questions I get is, you know, when I do Pro Overanalyzed or when I do Probing the Many, my own show on my own channel, it's a common question is, hey, what is the actual benefit of watching stuff like this? What is the benefit of watching the Overwatch League if I am just a normal player? And the answer is, well, positioning is definitely the big thing. Watching how the players use their time, what they're prioritizing with it, how they're managing, you know, what all the things that they're doing. Like, just figuring out how they're playing the game and why they're making the decisions they're making is a big part of informing sort of how you get better at Overwatch, because you realize, you know, oh, they're doing this stuff for a reason, maybe I can do some of that, and if you do start doing some of that, sometimes it can turn into kills in game, sometimes it can turn into you surviving longer, all that good stuff. Alright then, so gates will open, and as per usual, we're going to pause it. We're going to pause it just in time to watch Hureg faceplant into a sign, because hey, Widowmaker grappling hooks are magic and sometimes don't go the way you plan. So while we're here on this lovely moment here, we're going to look at the team comps. That shouldn't surprise anyone. Right, mistakes on the Genji, Striker on the Tracer. Hey, this is pure dive. It's almost old school dive, but hey, it's got the Mercy involved as well, because Calyx perhaps prefers that Mercy. One of the interesting things with this map actually is you normally do see Zenyatas on the offensive, and they normally occupy, you know, there's this high ground area just over this way. They normally occupy that high ground over there. They can get good line of sight down onto the point, do some damage. They can use like the posters and the pillar to get some good sort of line of sighting, blocking, you know, dodging damage and stuff, get some damage out themselves and get a lot of good results. But instead they're going to opt to run the Mercy. I think this is just more personal preference. I also think, and I have a suspicion that we're going to see this more often, which is the Valkyrie Dragonblade combo is actually quite a powerful combo, but that's something that I'm going to be keeping my eye on long term. Don't worry too much about it this game. Meanwhile, London Spitfire opting to run that Widowmaker. So this is going to mean a couple of things, which is that A, they aren't running a Soldier 76, and they're not running an Ana either. Sometimes you'll see that combo come out because you just sort of put them over in this area over here, and they can stand on this high ground. If they get dove, heal field goes down, heal grenade goes down, and there's tons and tons of health there for the supports getting dove. They can just drop down, normally onto the low ground, gives themselves some space, and then they can sort of use their mid-range strength to push back and take the point once again. With the Widowmaker though, there's going to be one or two changes. Most notably, Hagapen is going to be playing more over this way, while Closer is playing, well, fittingly closer to the team. And the idea here is that Hagapen is going to control this space back here, and as we play the clip, we're going to talk about why that's important. So the idea there is, so Hagapen A gives Closer somewhere to run, and B slows down Striker, who's going to be wanting to get around onto that high ground somehow. Striker not actually going that route at this moment, but they're very, like, London are very conscious of it and very prepared for it. You can see Hagapen's like super far back, really far away, playing very defensive. Closer takes a ton of damage, but actually survives, and that's actually quite a big deal, because now London can start sort of fighting the way back. And yes, Boston are getting a lot of progress on the point, but Hureg's looking for angles during all of this. The tanks are taking a lot of damage, because London, that's kind of how London works, and London are slowly bleeding Boston dry. A big factor here was the fact that Closer was able to survive and now can provide that healing from the high ground. Hagapen is there acting as sort of a buffer for Closer, and when Hagapen's in trouble, he can drop down, get towards his tanks, get picked up, and Closer can keep him alive. It's all pretty nice. And instantly, and this is so important on Zenyatta, instantly he resets back to that high ground. You've got to get going as quickly as you can to get back to that optimal position, because if you don't, Zen's quite slow, so he has to be a bit careful. He's going to actually opt to instead go a little bit further back. Now he's a bit more out in the open because they realize that, hey, they're playing pure dive. We've got to change one or two things about what we're doing. Closer also is a lot safer now because he has Valkyrie, so he doesn't have to worry quite as much about the threats coming in. You can see Striker looking for that backline angle. Prophet instead going to be trying to do what he can here. Mistakes goes in, uses Calyx, has Calyx's damage out with him. Hagapen goes down, but Closer crucially survives, and London did a good job falling back there, spreading out enough, and it's crucial to do that because Mistakes only gets one kill, right? And that killer is the Zen. And that's a big deal, but Closer can pick him back up at least. And that gave them a second bite of the cherry. It gave them a chance for Hagapen maybe to get that Transcendence in. Now, unfortunately, the focus still stays on Hagapen. He goes down and can't resume it. But Boston Boston are overextending a little bit here. Like, they had control of the point, but no one was stood on it. They didn't really start taking it until just now, but luckily for them, they still have enough of a control. Now, of course, this is London. London are always going to go in for, like, another go. They're always going to go in to try and contest the point at the last gasp. It actually does work out for them, even though they don't manage to take it. Even if they take a little bit of a staggering here, they still get Calyx's Valkyrie out, and that's actually a nice little advantage for them. So then, yeah, there's a bit of staggering happening at the moment, but the payload hasn't really started moving yet. London can still regroup. It's not really the end of the world. And as we get a nice replay from Striker, I think he was just fragging on the point, while London, I think, was trying to just regroup on it. You know, it's a Tracer killing people. I don't mean to be the anti-hype here, ladies and gentlemen, but sometimes, you know, it's just Tracer killing people. It's like a 3v6. It's not a big surprise that they won. Nice positioning out of Striker here, by the way, just getting a little bit of an advantage. But London, notice they're playing very passively. They brought the McCree out as well, and this is going to be pivotal to their strategy overall. They're going to start playing very heavily around the mid-range and going to play very heavily around Hagapen and Hureg, sort of working as almost like a DPS duo. You're going to see that Hagapen is very rarely left alone. Now then, Boss and Uprising engage, they use Sound Barrier, they dive super hard on Hagapen, and Hagapen uses Transcendence. This gives a clear field to Mistakes. Mistakes can then draw out the Dragon Blade and start killing people, no problem. Only really gets one still, but it's contested enough where I think London don't feel confident enough that they can get a res on. It's just a bit too close to Boston's front line. They're a bit too mobile, so the res can't quite come through. And as a result, Boston continue using this momentum, start getting a lot done, but then suddenly London, just the tank survive just long enough. Gesture's a goddamn monster, does such good work throughout. He just gets so much value out of that primal rage, manages to knock people back and just keeps the openings going for them. Boston Uprising making a change-up of their own. They swap Neko onto that Zenyatta. That's going to give them a little bit more power in dealing with Gesture. Gesture and Prophet in this series, I know they're not the focus, but they did a fantastic job of just exerting a lot of pressure. You can see that, like, the dynamic duo, they're just looking for an angle, looking for a way in, constantly causing some problems. Now, something crucial has happened during all of this, and that is that Mistakes and Hagapen have desynced. We call this desyncing. So the Genji has Dragon Blade available to him. Hagapen does not have Transcendence. This means that Boss and Uprising constantly have this little bit of an edge. Now, they've used Valkyrie. They're going to use it to get the res off. Mistakes is now available in the fight. Hagapen doesn't have anything, but unfortunately, Mistakes... I'm going to make the second joke twice in a row. Mistakes were made. Mistakes were made, ladies and gents. As he just dives into the McCree, maybe you thought that there'll be a diva there to save him. Doesn't quite work out. I do want to point out that during all of this fight, Hagapen's positioning is literally, you just saw a glimpse of him there, right? He's all the way back in that tunnel. He's all the way back to sort of super safe, putting damage in from the long range, because that's what you want to be looking to do as that Zenyatta, right? He's very, very formidable at long range. Has to be very careful with his positioning. And now that he's survived this long, they can re-engage using that Transcendence. And, you know, he survived, and that's the crucial thing here. He survived long enough to do that. He was always exerting pressure, always putting damage out, and then managed to survive long enough so that when the tipping point of the fight emerged, he was there and in position to use that Transcendence and then get something done with it. So now London resume control. Mistakes is swapped, by the way. He's no longer on that Genji. He's on the Soldier 76. The support ultimates have now, well, the support ultimate and Mistakes is now sort of synced, right? So the DPS ultimate, so Mistakes is Tactical Visor, and the Transcendence should come out roughly around the same time. Mistakes just has a bit of an edge on it at the moment. Hagapen needs to find, you know, a Winston to shoot at, for example, or something that he can just sink his teeth into. But again, super defensive position. Notice that Hureg is constantly staying with him as well. That's also to get value out of that Deadeye, which is going to be pivotal here. You can see that Neko wants to engage. He uses that Transcendence to engage. Hureg just activates the McCree ultimate, the Deadeye, and Boston can't do anything. Boston have to just sit and wait passively. Now, the downside of this is that Hagapen's had nothing to charge up of, so he can't charge up on anything, so Mistakes can just engage super hard here using the Tactical Visor. Hagapen, for some reason, steps out in the open, and I think that I highlight that as a specific moment of a mistake. Maybe he thought that Fury could protect him, maybe he thought he had some protection, but he just sort of ducked, like he managed to land a shot or two on Mistakes, and then went back for another shot against Attack Visor in Soldier 76. That ain't going to work out well. That really isn't going to end well for Hagapen, unfortunately. Now then, silver linings, ladies and gents. Silver linings, Hagapen has Transcendence, so they can retake this fight no problem. Boston Uprising used their support ultimates recently, London know it, and so London know they have a bit of an edge here going into this next fight. So they shouldn't be feeling too disarrayed, and, you know, third point as well, this comp that they're running is actually really strong at this point, because they have the sort of the open field. The McCree and the Zenyatta actually put out a huge amount of pressure. It's so dangerous to walk into that big open street that you will just take so much damage the moment they start locking shots onto you It's so dangerous. So that's what London are really going to be exploiting, and it's going to be difficult as well for Striker, who's normally so good. You know, I was singing Striker's praises in the previous video. Striker is an amazing player. He's phenomenal, but he's having such a hard time getting past Hureg, getting past Hagapen, and getting past Closer, that it's just not exerting that same pressure that we saw out of him before, rather. Now then, Boston have done a good job of slowing it down, building up some ultimates of their own, but here London are going to go for a very aggressive push. Beautiful bomb out of Note manages to slow down the push, however. The Transcendences cancel each other out, and now, well, Mistakes knows that the desync has happened once again. He can start trying to create some pressure, use that tactical visor, run forward, and get a whole pile of kills. Hureg can't afford to stay out in the open during this, can't use that Deadeye to leverage the pressure, and so Boston continue pressuring forward. Couple of last minute change-ups. You see Closer actually considering the Lucio for a moment there, but actually goes to the Ana. I find this a fascinating choice because the Lucio is normally what you'd expect out of these last ditch moments. Ana's actually a bit of an unusual one. Does have a lot of burst potential and does give you a nice little advantage like this. It's quite nice. Sets Prophet up for a little bit of damage, but unfortunately doesn't translate into a kill. Diva Bomb goes up and actually sets Hureg up for a beautiful kill on Mistakes. I want to just pause it there just to sort of highlight how cool this play was. Right, I've actually brought us back a little bit because I want to pause at that precise moment where the play really happens, because there's some interesting positional things happening here. Okay, so now there's a lot of trouble happening. Fury realizes, oh god, we're in actually quite a lot of trouble like this. We need to just have more time. What you want at this point is time for your respawns to come through and for you to be fighting a 6 versus 6 again. So Fury, realizing that his mech is in trouble, uses his boost and throws the bomb up into the air. Now then, you won't be able to see him, unfortunately, we don't have the aerial map, but Hureg is actually positioned up here. He's sort of up on the high ground area over in this space. And what's going to happen is Boston Uprising, 2 of their players are going to run into sort of the area over there, like the tunnel behind where all the player icons are. And so as we play this one out, you're going to see that Hureg, well, he just has Soldier 76 literally in his sights, gets an easy kill on Mistakes, and then is set up beautifully, actually, to pressure down Neko. Hagapen even comes in from behind, or I think, no, just comes in from the front, just puts some orbs in there as well, and then Hureg and Hagapen are just cleaning people up left, right, and center. It's exactly what you want out of this Zenyatta McCree combination. As someone who is probably going to be playing a lot of McCree next season, I was very impressed with Hureg, and like, this is another good example of, hey, I was watching what Hureg was doing because I want to learn how to play McCree. And hey, Hureg and Hagapen, good combo. Protect your Zenyatas if you're playing McCree. And if you're a Zen, get protected by your McCree. Hang around with him. He's a pretty cool guy. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the, well, London Spitfire attack, I suppose, is the best way to phrase that one. And you can already see in the team lineup, ooh, something spicy is happening here. We've seen Sombra, like, I was talking in a big game, certainly, about Sombra coming into sort of this stage of the Overwatch League and sort of Season 9 in general. And I've been kind of surprised by how ineffective Sombra has been. But we're going to see an interesting tactic come out of London here. And it's going to be kind of cool to sort of watch this one play out. So, what they want to do with this tactic, and I know, you know, we're going to be focusing on Hagapen. Hagapen, by the way, is on that Moira because the rapid healing is going to be so pivotal, and they want to win these, like a decisive engagement. Moira lets you do that. You can see that they're going to just run straight onto the point. What London want to do is they want to, I'm actually going to pause it here, they want to bait the enemy on the point. You can see Hureg moving straight to this back corner, for example, because normally what you see is the tanks, they'll be up on this high ground, and then if the enemy does this, then move us onto the point, and then you'll drop the Winston down, and he'll come to the point, stall on the point, and then jump out, and then Diva will go and do the same thing. Come down, and then she'll rocket away to safety, so she'll feel pretty good about that. Now, the wrench in the works here is that Sombra, and you can see that the first thing Hureg's going to do is he's going to be looking for hacks. He wants to just find something to hack, and then all of London Spitfire is just going to gank the hell out of that target. Now, unfortunately, Hureg just takes a speck of damage from something. I think he was clipped by the Tesla cannon or something like that, and he can't get the hack off. But London actually do something quite clever here. They fall back behind the point. Most of the team goes behind the point, and they use that to take the ground up here, which puts them in a really strong striking position onto where Mistakes is. So now they can dive from here, and you can see that Mistakes has nowhere good to run except for towards where the rest of London are coming from, which is where the Sombra was just waiting and, you know, been here all along, hi, and then was just going to kill him regardless. Even though Prophet did hunt him down and get the killing blow, it set London up for a beautiful little outplay there. Very nicely done by these guys, because you expect that first attack to go bad, and it's like, oh, well, what's the follow-up? What do we do? But because they actually managed to get themselves in a strong position, hey, it works out. And now the Moira can kind of kick in. She can use that Coalescence, and you can see Calyx has used his Valkyrie already as well. But what the Coalescence will do is it will kind of counteract the effect of that Valkyrie. It just sort of nullifies a lot of the healing. I think it technically does do a little bit more damage than what Valkyrie can heal, but it really, like, in my mind, the way I mentally figure it out is, hey, I'm just sort of nullifying the healing that the enemy team is doing and sort of stopping up what they want to accomplish. Okay, very solid play. Straight away, Hagapen swaps onto the Zenyatta. Moira on phase 2 here. The sky's a bit open. The terrain has little slanty angles on it, and that's the problem when you play Moira, right? If you throw an orb and there's weird little rounded angles all over the place, the orb's just going to bounce off to the moon and not really help anyone, at least not anyone on the planet Earth. So, straight away as well, Hureg swapping onto the McCree. Hey, it's this team comp again, guys. Hey, this seems familiar, right? That mid-rangey, hey, come try and dive our backline. We've got a McCree and a Zenyatta waiting for you. If you don't, then hey, our dive, our Prophet and Gesture combo is just going to go in and devastate your backline. You can see Striker actually desperately trying to find people. But meanwhile, Hagapen and Hureg have just set up. Hagapen's got himself into a beautiful position and has just started slaying absolutely everyone. Right, he's just dominated the kill feed. How has he done that? How has he done this? Well, thankfully, we're going to get a replay to take a look at it. But the key here is good positioning and a little bit of space. That's all that matters here. So you can see Hagapen, he's just, notice that he's not, he feels safe at the moment. He's not really being focused, but he's still staying where he can get behind, like, safety, where he can just duck away out of line of sight. Then just putting the Discord orb, putting the shots in, putting the headshots down, and that's how he's getting the kill feed and getting in the kill feed and dominating all those kills. Then he gets a beautiful little ultimate here, cancels out mistakes his ulti. Perfectly set up, right? Beautifully done, managed to get the damage out, gets the Transcendence nice and quick, cuts mistakes ultimate off rather completely, and makes sure that, notes Diva Bomb also gives himself a nice little boost. Did you notice? Just bumped towards Gesture rather, just to heal him up that little bit quicker. Don't think that was quite intentional, but it's nice when it works out like that, right? Otherwise, again, just very, very defensive positioning. Notice that he's staying with his McCree, but then trying to just duck away into the back line where he sort of can get out of line of sight super, super effectively. Like, 90, well, not 90%, but I'd say like a good 50% of good support play literally all comes down to positioning, right? It's just making sure that you are in a place where you can get to safety or get to a health pack or be supported by your other supports or your off tank and actually get the help you need. Sometimes when I watch coaching material and I see players sort of go, oh yeah, I always die on Zenyatta, I'm always getting picked off, like I'm getting dove by the enemy team, and it's like they're 3 miles away from the rest of the team. That's literally why. They're just a little bit out of position. It's like, well, I was in a really safe place. Surely I should be fine. I'm not doing anything wrong. It's like, no, you're kind of going too safe. You're going to an extreme here, and you're just running off to the hills, basically. Now then, London lost that fight. They lost that fight pretty decisively, but they kind of intended to, because Boston, they used just about everything to do that. They used Primal Raise, they used Visor, I think they used Valkyrie as well, just to make sure that happened. London only used Primal Raise. They go into this next fight with 5 ultimates. That's what we call an ultimate advantage, ladies and gents, and it's a pretty goram nice one, especially when you have that Deadeye, that High Noon. Again, Prophet and Gesture go in, create space, Hureg gets set up, can just move out, pulls out the Deadeye, and even has a Transcendence of his own to cover him as well, to keep him nice and safe. Deadeye doesn't give a single heck about Transcendence, it really doesn't mind, so hey, just a couple of quick, easy kills off the back of that one, and now it's desperation time for Boston, and 3 minutes on the clock to push it a couple of meters. That feels pretty good, and especially feels pretty good when something like that happens. And now it's just a matter of, well, for Hagapen in particular, just looking for those angles, looking so he can see towards the spawn door, get a bit of burst damage in, get the right clicks in, but staying towards the back as well. He wants to be able to use the payload for cover, forces Note to come to him, sets Note up to get demech'd behind the point, and then it all starts working out for London at the end of the day. I'd say out of everything in this game, a little bit of rough moments in terms of ultimate economy and ultimate balance out of Hagapen, but overall, superb positioning, superb knowledge about where he needs to be, and just working with his McCree extremely well. Right, that was making all the difference. And it kind of just emphasizes at the end of the day, ladies and gents, that Overwatch is a team game, and you've got, the DPS can't just be running off and trying to make big plays. No, if you're there helping your supports, you get moments just like this one. And that's really what you're looking for at the end of the day. Alright guys, thanks for watching to the end. I've been Josh, as one voice amongst many. Hopefully you've enjoyed this quick look into Zen and Hagapen in particular, and I'll see you guys next time.